Let's go ahead and get started here. I'll pull up the slides here in just a second. Welcome everybody. My name is Jacob Stark, VP of Marketing here at Realvolve, and I'm really excited to dive into today's topic with today's guest, Jennifer Myers. Climb your own ladder. There's a lot of folks who would love to see more consistency in their business, right? More predictable revenue and all that. And so we are going to be covering that today. So let's jump in and just get some initial stuff here set. So I'm going to hit present. And you signed up today because I imagine because of one of these four reasons, right? And hopefully for all four. You're looking for tips to get listings now, but you'd love to not have a panicked approach to that, right? You'd love to have a more consistent way of getting those. It's probably intriguing to find, more homes for your clients right now. And it's a crazy seller's market. How can we do better for the buyers? Part of that consistency in your business would be to position yourself as the go-to agent without having to spend crazy amounts of money for media exposure, right? And then, of course, how do we automate more of this? Jennifer's going to talk through some of all of these things, give you some great ideas that you can implement today, tomorrow, as well as a few that hopefully you'll take a step back and start implementing from a big picture standpoint. So that's what we'll be covering today. And as I said, Jennifer Myers, welcome. Jennifer, as you can see her on the screen, has had a ton of success in the industry as a realtor herself, and then certainly as a coach. And she founded the Agent Grad School, has a lot of incredible students there, many of which are joining us today. So shout out to all of the Agent Grad Schoolers. And then Jennifer, you also host your own podcast, Confessions of a Top Producing Real Estate Agent. So anything else you want to add in there that just to let people know more about you?
Yeah, just hi, and thank you guys for being here. I know how busy everybody is, especially right now with how crazy the market is. So thank you for joining us live and taking time to learn these new skills. This is the byproduct of what I'm going to teach you today. So I first started in real estate in 2003, and it took me 4 years to sell my first house. So what I'm going to teach you today is how to go from how to avoid the first 4 years of that struggle that I had. And I'm going to teach you the things and teach you to change your mind about the way that you look at your real estate business so that you can have, a success story like this or whatever yours looks like. So I'm just really excited to share all this with you guys today.
And Jennifer, you've mentioned this to me, but you help anyone from, say, like someone who just got their license, brand new to the industry, all the way to people who have been in the business for 10, 15 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, who I love helping and who the agents I love talking to are the ones that are brand new, right? Because I was struggling so much that I wouldn't save them from having the harrowing experience that I had in the beginning. But then I also constantly see real estate agents who've been at this for a long time, never having the production that they thought they would have, or having it never be easier. And so those are the two groups that I love to talk to, especially those who've seen a little bit of success and kind of just are plateaued or working too hard. The things you're going to learn today are going to really help with those two groups.
Cool. Well, let's jump right in. But first, we'd love to get to know who's joining us today and a little bit more about you, your business. So let's launch just a couple quick polls with you. Launch this first one. How long have you been in the business? If you can answer that one for us, get a better idea of the audience that we have here. And the quick numbers, pretty good balance here, actually. A lot of folks that are new, but we do have about 25% of those who've been in the business more than 11 years. So welcome to everybody here. Very cool. We'll let that run just for another second here, give people a chance to vote. All right. So Jennifer, looks like we've got a pretty good mix of folks here.
Okay, great.
And we'll go ahead and end that one. Were you able to see the results there?
Now I am. That's great. Okay, so 39% of you have been less than 12 months, 20% of you 1 to 3 years, 6%, 4 to 5, 10%. And then we've got 25% of you 11 or more years. So one thing that, like I keep seeing as somebody who talks to real estate agents all day is a lot of times it doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. Sometimes, that doesn't necessarily determine, unlike other professions, kind of what your numbers look like. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, great.
Cool. Let's move on to the next one here. So what percentage of your business comes from referrals and past clients?
Yeah. What I'm really curious to know is, how much of your business is coming from people that you already know? Do you guys track that?
And that leads directly to something I know you're going to cover, Jennifer, as far as the two major audiences that you can communicate with, right?
Yeah. So we'll dive into this, but there's really only two people you can market to: people you know and people you don't know. And so what I'm really trying to figure out is what percentage of your business comes from that people that you already know. And by the way, when we talk about marketing, it's not bugging people for business. But I'm just so curious how many of you are getting a good number of your business from people you know.
Yeah. So
okay. So 40% of you are 0 to 25%. Yeah, we got to increase that number. 16% of you, 26 to 50%. 16 of you also. So about, 30% of you get between 25% and 75% of your business from people you know. And then another third of you. So it's about a third. That's so interesting. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Would you like more business from people you know? Just put yes in the chat or no.
Hopefully we'll see a lot of yeses there.
Yeah, right? It's the easiest and most exciting business to get, but we want to do it in a way that doesn't bug people, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of bugging, this is our last poll, so don't worry. We are going to move on. But go ahead and let us know, how many homes have you sold this year so far?
Yeah, so it's June, end of June. So we're exactly at that 6-month mark. So where are we at?
All right. Let's give you another couple seconds here.
Fill out that poll rather than put it in the chat so we can count you in our percentage.
Yeah, if you're putting in the chat, go ahead and answer that poll that's on your screen. And I'll go ahead and end that now, share the results. It looks like we have quite a few folks that are less than 10 so far this year.
Okay, so that's so interesting. So we have a very big majority have been in the business longer than 11 years. And still the majority at less than 10. Wow. Okay. And we've got, of course, the top 1%. That always is how the top 1% at 51 plus. Awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, I hope to be able to teach each of you guys, no matter if you've sold 0 houses or selling hundreds, some strategies that you can apply to your business to get more business.
Absolutely. All right. So Jennifer, with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you. You can kick us off into the slides here.
Yeah. So first thing is, why are we doing this? Why are we talking about how to get more business? And the biggest thing that each one of you have to be aware of is that there are more real estate agents in the country than ever before. We just topped in May 2021 over 1.5 million realtors. That's like National Association of Realtors. So there's probably even more real estate agents that aren't counted here. And in some markets, I know places like Austin, for example, there are more real estate agents than there are houses to sell. So literally by the numbers. Not only that, but the median gross income for realtors was $43,000 on average in 2020. We don't have 2021 yet, obviously, but note that decreased from 2019 from 49,000. I track real estate agents' salaries, and that's the first time, at least, that I've been tracking in like a decade that I've seen it go down like that. So we've got more real estate agents than ever. We've got less homes to sell because the market's so tight. We've got a decrease in our average income. And on average, the National Association of Realtors say the average number of transactions a year are only 10 per year. So I don't know about you, but like I didn't quit my job and start a new business and have all the expenses and work so hard to have these average numbers, right?
Yeah.
I don't think.
I'm just curious. I think a lot of people would say, well, we had the pandemic in 2020. So, but I speak to our clients every single day, and I feel like there's kind of this I don't want to say feast or famine, but let's say close to that, where I'm talking to some who are having career years in 2020 and so far in 2021, and others who are saying, man, it's so much harder right now. Are you seeing the same thing? First question, and then do you have any kind of like hypothesis around that?
Yeah, I think the first question I would ask is those people that are having career years, are they happy? Are they manageable? Are they seeing their families? Right? Like none of us also quit our jobs and started in real estate to never see our families and work 100 hours a week. So my question would be, yes, you might be producing, but are you thriving? Right? And how do we get you from like running around with your chicken with your head cut off to actually being able to manage that kind of business in a way that also gives you a life outside your business? For the ones that haven't done any business yet, really, this is the big thing you've got to ask yourself. And I think that leads us to the next slide, which is if those are the average numbers, right? If that's what average looks like for us real estate agents, I would highly recommend stop looking at what everybody else is doing and doing what everybody else is doing, right? There is no way, one of my favorite quotes, that's great, Heidi, if you make 100, if you sell townhouses a year and that's your goal, that's great. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just, are you meeting your goals, right? And if you can manage that, that's awesome. So, if those are average numbers, and if that is not what you want to be doing, then really looking around and saying, is what everybody else doing actually working, right? And what is going to make the difference between those agents that thrive in this new environment, and who knows, like we may have a change in the market at some point, and even if we don't, what is the difference between the agents who are thriving and the ones who can't get any business? And there is a really great quote from a book I love, I hope you all read it, called Fascinate by Sally Hogshead. And she says, you cannot stand out if you're trying to blend in. Oops. So go ahead. You can go to the next slide. And so this is your golden ticket. This is when I was struggling in real estate, this was like in 2005. So I had not sold any houses yet. I went to a marketing conference completely outside of the real estate world. And a man by the name of Dan Kennedy asked me this question. He asked everybody in the room this question. And he said, you can answer this one question in your business. And by the way, this wasn't just real estate agents in the room. This was everybody from restaurateurs to, you name it, they were in that room. And they said, this is your key. This is your golden ticket to the kingdom. If you can answer this one question and apply it to everything you do, you can be successful in whatever it is that you're doing as far as sales are concerned. And that one question was, why should somebody choose you above all other options, including doing nothing at all? I'm going to say that one more time. If you can find your unique answer to why should somebody choose you above all other options, including doing nothing at all, that is your key to the golden ticket. And so a lot of the things and a lot of the tactics like today that you're going to hear aren't necessarily brand new tactics. Like these are things that you've heard. My recommendation is to apply this strategy, the strategies that I'm going to give you today, to the tactics that you already know and love, right? So it's not that postcards or letters or Facebook ads or social media, all of them work or don't work, depending on how well you answer that question. Okay, so we're going to apply that to how to get more listings, and we're going to apply that to how to help your buyer clients. So here's 4 steps to get more listings right now. And the goal always is not to chase listings, right? To be known as the expert. We're going to talk a lot about how to do this in a minute, but how to have people wanting to work with you. So saying, hey, I heard about you. Can you come list my house? That's what we want. All right. So the first question you have to answer, this is 4 steps. Why you? Why now? Then tell people you know. Then tell people you don't know. Don't do a listing presentation. Do this instead. And don't make your listing consultations about price. So that is the overview. And I'm going to talk you through each one of those. So why you, why now? So what's one of the biggest reasons why, and by the way, I want to make sure we want to make sure first, who are we talking to, right? So part of this is knowing, in order to answer the question, why you and why now, you have to ask yourself, who am I actually trying to help and how am I trying to help them? So in order to answer that question, why you and why now, you have to know who you're talking to. So the first level of people that we're talking to, and I really want to make sure this is clear, we're not talking to people who aren't interested in selling their house. The people that we are talking to are those people who want to sell their house, but think they can't for whatever reason, or have some big obstacle, some problem to solve, something that's preventing them from moving forward. So for most of your markets, if you read the national news, like most of our markets, one thing is preventing people from selling their houses. What do you think it is? Put it in the chat.
Yeah, put that in the chat for us.
What is the main reason right now people are not selling their houses? Exactly. They have nowhere to go, right? So if you can solve that problem, yeah, exactly. You guys know all this, right? So why are we sending out just listed cards when we know that they might want to list their house, when the reason they can't list their house is because they have nowhere to go? Mm-hmm. Right? Or another one, they can't buy without selling. They think they can't buy without selling, but we as real estate agents know how to solve that problem, right? Okay. So if you don't mind putting that slide back on, just so I can, oh, hold on. Yeah. Okay, cool. So why you, why now? And that's the first thing you have to answer. So if I am going to a particular neighborhood and I want a certain listing, and I know everybody in that neighborhood is probably selling their house to move up to a bigger one, or they're downsizing or something like that, then I not only need to talk about what sold in the neighborhood, right? Just listed, just sold. They don't care. What they care about is, how am I going to find a house? How am I going to buy first before selling? Those are the problems that, if that's your audience, if that's who you're talking to, that's the problem you have to solve. So how are you going to solve that? Okay, so that's what your marketing has to talk about. Now, I'm just going to give you this one example, right? So let's just say that we're focused on helping people move up from their first home to their second home. That's the audience that we've chose, right? And we can only market ourselves to 2 people. We can only market ourselves to people we know and people we don't know. Now, so many of us real estate agents, we automatically forget all the people we know, or we don't want to quote unquote bug them and all of that. But that is like your, again, I think another golden ticket is talking to people you know, not bugging them for listings, not asking them, not always talking about selling, but giving them valuable information. So a perfect example is, and this is how I talk to people I know, every single week I send one email, every single week. And that email is not about how the houses I've sold. It's not about, what's happening in the market, because they already know, like they're hearing it, they're reading the papers, right? It's really helping them get unstuck. So I know that most of my audience is people who are in that selling their first house, wanting to buy their forever house. And I know that the 2 things they're most worried about are where they're going to go and how they're going to get there if they haven't sold their house first. So every single week, I send an email talking about those things. So for example, I send an email about how they could, and again, this isn't going to go well with everybody, but how they could borrow temporarily from their 401k, how they could have a bridge loan, how in certain markets, there's things like Knock or any of these other companies who can help them buy first before having to sell. Okay. The other thing I'm talking about to my list right now, the people that I know, is another big thing that's happening is they don't think that real estate agents provide a lot of value right now because they're thinking that we can just put a sign in the yard, put it on the MLS, and the house is going to sell, right? But we know, and we have to communicate some other value. So I just did a series, 6-week series, where every single week I talk about how sellers can get the very most money for their house, even in this crazy seller's market, right? And I talk about how to take advantage, quote unquote, take advantage of this hot seller's market. Why leave money on the table at one of the most historic, highest times to sell your house? And then each week I tell them, how to prep your house for sale, even if you could sell it in a day, and why that's so important, right? Another one is another week, another email. Let's see, whether or not you should sell off market. When is a good time? When is a bad time? So I'm talking about all the things that is on their mind, and I'm trying to solve their problem.
Hey, Jennifer, when it comes to those emails, what's kind of your take on those emails in terms of how much detail you give? Are you trying to essentially give them the very beginning of that and have them call you for more information? Are you trying to answer it in full? What's your strategy with your emails like that?
The way that I operate, and again, this is talking to people so I'm going to talk a little bit differently to the people I don't know. So we'll talk about how to do that here in a second. With the people I know, most of them are past clients. Most of them are people I know or people that have opted in to my email list. And so they want to hear from me. And so I give them everything. I say, here's an example. Here's how we use it. And if you or anybody is looking to buy a home and worried about where you're going to go or how you're going to get money for it, let's schedule an initial consultation so we can talk through it. Right? So because it's people I know, I can share that information and I know that they're going to want to know more and exactly how to do it. Exactly. Right. So that happens week after week after week. And then sometimes, for example, I break it up. So I don't always talk about selling. I also talk about things like right now, it's the summer everywhere. And I've given them like things to do to keep your house maintained during the summer months, right? Just things that add value to their lives. And I do it consistently week after week after week. So that constantly I'm educating them about how to be great homeowners, what it looks like to remove their obstacles. And especially right now, I'm not constantly focused on like market statistic, market updates. They know that already. They know what's selling in their neighborhood that doesn't provide any value. Okay, so I'm talking about the things that matter to them.
Hey, Jennifer, we have quite a few people who have done fewer than 10 transactions so far this year. And we had a pretty good mix of people who are new. For those folks, they're not going to have hundreds, thousands of people in their email database yet. No. How do you suggest people start growing that email list?
Yeah. So here's the thing. You do not need a large list. It's quality over quantity. So the first thing that I did, so right now, even, I made $1 million a year with my list being less than 600 people.
Wow.
Okay. But it's people that really love me, love to hear from me, want to work with me, past clients. And it's slow and steady. My first list, I still have it in my desk drawer because it reminds me how far I came. It's like 12 people, half of which I don't know who they are. And the other half are like my mom who's never moved, my uncle who's never moved, right? But you just start this following and you start becoming known for something. And then slowly but surely you build that list. Okay. Now, email, for example, I know everybody's focused on social. And so you're probably saying like email's old news. I have some statistics for you. Let me just pull them up for a second. Hold on 1 second. Email has the highest ROI way over social. So hold on, let me find my notes. Yeah. Here is why, even if you're focused on social, which is fine, you definitely want to have a social presence, but I don't want you to prioritize that over your email list. And here's why. No, I might not be able to share my screen. Here. That's okay.
Share there.
Okay. Just some statistics for you. So email marketing is the preferred channel. 60% of people say email, as when it comes to marketing, which you guys are doing, is the preferred method. This is according to an online company called Opt-in Monster that tracks this kind of stuff. 20% only want social media. So people want to engage by email. The conversion rate for email is 6.05%, and the conversion rate from post to sale, email to sale, for social, it's only 1.9%. And the ROI for email, for every dollar you spend in email, you get $44 back. That's a 4,400% ROI. So I don't know about you, but I don't know anything else that anybody can claim. If you put $1 in, you're going to get $44 back. So all day long, I'm going to make that investment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. For social media, the ROI is, I'm just finding it here in my notes, 28%. And the reason that is because only 10% of your people see your social media posts. It matters, depending on what time of day that you post, what time of day they're on, right? So email is where it's at.
And Jennifer, I think you mentioned this before, but to be clear, you're not saying to completely ignore other channels, right? You're just saying don't forget your email channel because it's so important.
Exactly. And talking to your people, in a way that's a conversation. So these emails are conversational, right? Versus social media, that's a party. So how like at a party, sometimes it's hard to have like deep conversations and everybody's talking and you go from place to place. That's what social media is. Versus your email, that's kind of more like a one-on-one conversation. And that's how you want your emails to be, right? You're sharing your point of view. Yeah, email is free. Sometimes you have to, sure, but I would recommend using something like MailChimp or one of these other that do cost a little bit per month. So I think my MailChimp costs $15 a month. It makes me much more than 4,400 every single month. So don't forget that email, cheap, free, share your point of view, answer that question, why should somebody choose you? And that is how you talk to people you don't know. Now, for those of you who have a small list, the way to start is, and I always say, start with people that would be you would invite to a party, that you would say hi to at the grocery store. People that would be happy to hear from you and cheer you on. And again, you aren't bugging them. You're giving them value-added information and content. And so what you want to do is start with, what do they want? Who are they? What do they care about when it comes to real estate? And you might say, well, everybody I know is in their forever home. That's great. Well, they probably want to know how to take care of it. I know interest rates dipped. You talk about refinancing. Add value. Maybe they want to be an invest. Maybe they have kids who are buying their first house. There's so many different things that you can talk to. And here's the biggest thing. I see so many real estate newsletters. This is not a newsletter I'm talking about, but so many real estate newsletters talking about everything other than real estate. They're talking about what movies to go to, the things that are opening in the neighborhood, and all that's great. But they're getting that information from other places. You want to be the go-to resource for everybody you know about all things related to real estate. And you want to almost be like I call it like the people's reporter, right? So they're seeing online, for example, it's such a great time to refinance. And they're seeing that over and over again. And then they're hearing things like, oh, interest rates are going up. And mark my words, as the year goes on, interest rates are going to start going up. And you have to have a conversation with your people, because people are going to start to say, oh, interest rates are going up. I'm no longer going to buy. I missed my chance, right? My point of view is that's a great time to buy, because more people think like that. Less people are going to be out there. It's actually a great time. And if you do the math, the difference isn't going to be huge. They're still going to be able to afford that house, right? So those are the kinds of things that you need to be sharing. And even if it's not something that they need, right? Even if they're not the ones buying or selling, you always want to add something that says, if this could help you or anybody you know, pass it on. Okay. So email list.
And Jennifer, just a time check. We're about 12:30 now, Mountain Time. And I know there's some questions in there. We'll definitely try to get to those at the end here. But Jennifer, I know you got a ton of great stuff to cover here, so we'll try to protect a little bit of time at the end for the questions, but definitely put them in the chat for us.
Okay, cool. Yeah, keep putting them in chat and I'll get through as many as we can. Okay, so talk to people you know by email. Free, easy, cheap. All right, but you also got to talk to people you don't know, especially if you're dropped in the middle. Like, let's just say you moved, right? And you truly don't know anybody in the area. Like, I totally get that. Well, now you have to apply that same strategy, right? Who do you help and how do you help them? So for example, let's just say like the biggest thing that most people do is they think about farming a neighborhood. So farming a neighborhood, you often hear, doesn't work, or it takes a long time, or it's expensive, all that stuff. And what I'm suggesting that you do is shorten that time frame. So become known as somebody who solves a problem in that neighborhood. Like I mentioned earlier, if you know, think about who you're talking to, what they care about, and why they haven't moved already. So if you are focused on a particular neighborhood and you know those people need to move, then start talking about the ways that they can buy first instead of selling first, because that's their biggest fear. And you as a real estate agent, by the way, you need to be the expert in this. So if you don't know how to make that happen at this point, I can't teach that class today because we have so much more to go through, but there are tons of ways for people to buy first without having to sell first. And you should talk to your lenders and find the resources to be able to do that. Okay. Talk about that in your postcards. The other thing to be talking about in your postcards is things like, I can help you find a house before it's time to sell. Right? We're going to talk about strategies to make that happen, but tell people you have ways to find, at least I have ways to find houses off market. Right? We're going to talk about how to do that. So that's the kind of stuff you need to talk about. How do you solve their problems? And how do you, what is their biggest problem and how do you solve it? And that will get you a result and a response more than anything. Another big one is, a lot of people have to fix up their house or worried about, do they have money, all that stuff. There's great concierge programs out there that you should be talking about. I use one called Curbio. So whatever obstacle is between them and selling their house, talk about that and how you solve it. Now, last but not least, when you start getting responses, because you will, when you're talking about things that actually matter to people, and adding value to them, not just talking about what sold the neighborhood, which they already know because they can see it online themselves. When you get in front of them, do not do a listing presentation. Nobody wants to be at one-on-one when you walk into a house, wants to be presented to about how great you are, right? Nobody wants that. And so instead, what I want you to do is create what's called a pre-listing package. And I want you, every single piece of that, mine's about 40 pages. And I want you to answer that question. Who are you? Why do you do this? And how you solve their problems. Okay. So that's what your pre-listing package should have in it. And one thing I always recommend is giving them homework. So again, if you know you're talking to somebody who needs to buy and sell at the same time, your focus should not be on selling their house. Your focus should be on finding them their new house, where they want to go, because they're not ready to list unless they're ready to buy. So a perfect homework assignment, again, if we're talking to these sellers, is where do you want to go? What does it look like? So I stick that in my pre-listing package. I deliver it either by email or in person, drop it off or FedEx it, and they flip through it. And by the time I get to the listing appointment, they are like already sold. Okay. And then truly your listing presentation, quote unquote, becomes a conversation about how you can help them do whatever they're trying to do. Why? The first question you should ask, why do you want to sell? Or usually what I ask, because 9 times out of 10, I've looked at their house, I'm like, this is so cute. Why are you selling? And I mean it, right? So that's a totally different energy, totally different way than presenting.
Jennifer, and then are you going in with kind of an assumptive close then? Not in an aggressive way, but just, kind of assuming like, hey, if you're going to sell, we're going to work together because we've got a great plan here and all that. What's your approach?
Well, my approach is they've called me. So I gave them a reason to call me and they've told me I want to sell. And so my assumption is they're going to sell and they're going to use me.
Yeah.
And I just need to figure out how to help them do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really good point. I do not show up with this energy of like, I hope I get picked.
Yeah.
No, I move it forward. Now, on that note, do not make your listing consultation about price, because then you start being in this, like, who's going to give me the highest price? And you all know those times where they're like, that agent can get me X price. And so how you make your presentation or your consultation not about price is that you explain how pricing works. So here's how I explain how pricing works when I get to that section. Remember, I've already blown their mind in the pre-listing presentation. They've already reached out to me because I'm educating them about all these things and removing their obstacles and telling them how they can make this happen when they think that they can't, right? And then they say, okay, great. Well, what are we going to get? And I'll say, well, here's what has sold recently in our neighborhood. But before we can talk about price, we've got to talk about timing. Because depending on the time of year and what sells between now and then, the price conversation is a totally flexible thing. So here's, and I say to them, what's sold in your house, what's sold, and most likely this is what the range would be today based on what the comps are and what your house looks like. But we need to talk timing. That's how I move the conversation over to when are we going to do this thing? And then I say, we're going to constantly be looking at what's selling in your neighborhood. These prices may go up and down by the time we get to your listing date. Also, it depends on what they've agreed to when I walk through the house with them about what they're going to do and not do, right? I can't walk in knowing what the price is. I've never seen the house. I don't know how it compares. I don't know what time of year. If they want to sell in December, I'm going to price it way differently than in the spring in my market. Okay, so educate them about how pricing works. And pricing is not your value proposition. The market sets the price. Okay, your job is to get them the most money possible. Okay. How not to get listings. For example, don't have a neighborhood open house and then ask everybody to sign in and email everybody, right? Don't pretend, ask permission. Don't pretend that you are doing one thing, giving a list of names for the seller and then use it for your marketing. Okay. That's going to turn people off. So don't do stuff like that. I'm told I have to speed up. Sorry, guys. All right, here's 3 ways. So we have our listings. We're getting listings coming in. We're adding value. But now we need to find these people some houses, right? And here's the biggest thing. Do not wait in this market to put homes on just waiting for things that, everyone's like, there's no inventory. Well, of course there's no inventory. You're waiting for things to come on the MLS. So start being proactive. Same thing. Talk to people you know, and talk to people you don't know. So one thing I did last year when COVID hit, nobody was selling their house because nobody knew what the heck was going on. And I had all these buyers. So the first thing I did was I sent what I called the hive. And I will give you an example of what this looks like. I can't.
Need to share?
No, but it's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. It's something called the hive. And because I had my list of people I knew, my past clients, I said, hey guys, because I'm sending this weekly email, right? And I said, look, normally I'm telling you what's happening, but now I need your help because the inventory's just dried up. So we have all these buyers and here's what we need you guys to fill for us. So if you or anybody you know has any of these types of homes, please be in touch with me. We got so many people telling me that they went in the alley and waited till the woman put her trash out and then gave me her phone number. I mean, you wouldn't believe the number of introductions that I got out of this. And it's because I didn't start here. I was doing that weekly value add, and then I started asking them for a favor, and they gave it to me. Okay. And so then what we did is we shared with them when they've helped us find a house. I wanted to show them that they were successful at this. And by the way, anybody who gave us a lead, we sent a little honey package, like a honey, for your bread, a honey candle. And we just said, thanks for something about Buzz, right? So we sent a thank you note. And we said, hey, here's what we need. Here's what we found. And we thanked our people over and over again. And we sold a lot of houses this way.
And Jennifer, your students have had a lot of success with this letters or with the hive as well, right?
Yes. So just don't ignore the people that you already know, and you aren't bugging them. You are just telling them what they need. And if you've been adding value this whole time, they're happy to reciprocate. Now, the other thing is you need to talk to people you know. So once you know exactly what your buyer client wants, we do something called the letter. And so this is really important because what this does is make your buyers very specific about what they want. And it's your job to make sure that what they want is in alignment. So oftentimes I'll say, like, what you want is totally available. It's just not available right now. And I'll say, like, here's 6 neighborhoods where we can get you what you want. And they're like, and then I show them the last, 6 months of sales. And I say, would you buy any of these houses? And they see the pricing and they say, yeah. And I say, great. Well, then I'm going to send a letter to that neighborhood. And I'm going to explain that we have a buyer. And I'm very specific. Can I share my?
Yeah.
One more time. I'm very specific in that letter. So it's not just like a benign letter. Here we go. Here's an exact example.
And as you pull that up, Cody provided a link to your website, Jennifer, where they can actually get this letter, correct?
Yeah. We call it the letter because it like works so well that that's all you have to call it. It's just, and every single time I send this out, I've gotten responses off market people who've said, yes, I have exactly what you want. And the kicker is, and I know you guys have heard this before, but I have to explain to the seller what's in it for them, why they shouldn't put their house on the market right now. And so right now, for example, I say, if you have any interest in selling your home, you might be able to save money on the listing side, right? Because they could just do that transaction. Now I would add a paragraph that says something like, if you don't want hundreds of people going through your house, you don't want to prepare it, right? All the things, the reasons why it's so important, but I make it personal. I introduce them to a real person. Okay, I don't include pictures. That's violation of fair housing. I don't give them any specifics, but it's a real life person. And some of our students have used this letter and it didn't work for their buyer, but it ended up getting them listings. So that's not the intention, right? You don't want to send out this letter. Again, do not pretend in your marketing. Don't send this letter and then be like, oh, I don't have a buyer, right? Be authentic and then see what happens. So those are just 2 ways that you can be proactive. The other thing to be thinking about is who's most likely to sell, right? So a lot of areas have a rent moratorium, for example. There's a lot of landlords who aren't getting paid their rent. And so be thinking about, and that's not the case in every market, but my point is think about your market, think about what's going on, and think about who's most likely to sell. So landlords and absentee owners, at least in my area, they are more likely to sell because A, they want a high price, and it's my job to explain what's happening if they don't live there. And B, there's a rent moratorium. So they can not get paid rent and they have nothing, like their tenants there, they don't have to pay rent. So if I come in and say, if this is happening to you, call me, I have buyers who can buy your house. Okay, those are just some examples. And then again, agent and lender relationship. So in the case of the letter, right, usually there's certain agents that like dominate a neighborhood or have sold a couple houses. First thing I'm going to do is call them. And that's one thing, like really, even though like I know real estate is a competitive market, you really want to create these relationships with agents over time and be known as somebody who can get the deal done and is a pleasure to work with, so that when you are the one to call them, they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to give it to her or him. And then your lender relationships. Do not underestimate what your lender knows. Your lender is pre-approving everybody. So they are the ones. I mean, I wish lenders would have like an off-market, because they're not subject to the MLS rules, right? Or any of the stuff we're subject to, right? They should have their own little pool because they're pre-approving everybody who wants to sell their house to buy a new one. So ask them, hey, do you happen to have anybody who you've pre-approved to buy a house? What does that look like? Would you be willing to introduce me to that agent? Right?
Yeah. So Jennifer, we had 3 ways, but you actually added a bonus there. So
I did.
You all got 4. But we did get the question. We provided the link for the letter. Do you provide an example of the Hive to folks if they'd like that?
I can. I don't know. I don't have like a way right now, but I'm sure we could like figure out a way to give you a link. Absolutely. But here's the thing, guys, the Hive does not work if you've not been adding value and sending email. Don't just start emailing your people and asking for things.
And another question, are you sending separate letters or emails or something like that to the landlords, absentee owners? Is that a different message to them?
Absolutely. Yes. Whoever asked that question, very, very smart question to ask. Yes. I'm always thinking about, who am I talking to? What do they need? What problem do they have? And how can I talk about that? So the landlord one would be like, hey, I don't know if you know, but we have a rent moratorium in, XYZ neighborhood. If you're having problems getting rent from your tenant, not only can I help you fix that problem, but I could also help you save money from listing your home, not have to get it ready, maybe not even have to kick out your tenants. I don't know. But call me. I have a specific buyer. Here's who she is. Here's what she's looking for. And your house fits that requirement. So I'm very specific.
Yeah. Hey, Jennifer, I know we got to keep the pace going here, but there's an interesting question here in terms of what if the buyers aren't liking the houses? I mean, it's such low inventory. How are you coaching your buyers in terms of, they don't want to settle for something they don't like, but there's just so little inventory. What are they to do?
Okay, so there's what I call the 3-bucket strategy. So the 3 buckets is it's price, location, and what the house is. Those are the only 3 things that you can adjust when it comes or talk about when it comes to buying a house. And when you think about those as levers, when you talk to your people, you have to turn one. Like, if they're not liking any house, and this is where it's your responsibility as the expert to know, is it just a right now thing? Like, is it just a timing thing? If so, then use the letter, right? Show them where they can get what they want. But if it's truly that they're not in alignment, what they want for what they want to pay isn't where they want, then you have to ask them what it is they want to change. Those are 3 options, right? And it's about educating. So a perfect example is on the budget. And they might say, oh, just really 500 is my top, right? And you'd say, well, did you know if we increase it to like 525, you're going to get that extra bedroom, and that only changes your monthly payment by, $100 a month. Would you be willing to pay $100 extra a month to get the house that you want? Right?
Absolutely.
Those are the kinds of conversations you as the expert need to be able to have.
That's the advisory role you have to play, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So the real question you have to ask yourself is what they want? Does it exist, or are they out of alignment? If they're out of alignment, change the lever. If they're in alignment and it's a timing issue, show them the houses that have come on and say, we can wait. Or if you're definitely into this neighborhood, I can send the letter.
Great.
So those are things. Now, I know I'm going a little late, so I'll just blow through these kind of quickly, but here's the goal, guys. With people you know and people you don't know, everything I'm talking about is how you position yourself as the go-to agent, right? The goal is not for us to be chasing clients, for us to be asking for business, and it's to become known for something. So in my market, why should somebody choose me? I decided that I didn't have a reason, but then I realized I bought my first house, and I realized at the time that I knew more than I'd never sold a house. I had no reason. Then I realized that at least I knew more than people who've never bought their house, because I've been through it. And my experience wasn't great necessarily, because I learned later I missed out on $50,000 that would have helped me in down payment assistance based on what I made and where I bought. That became why. That became my why me. I want to help you make sure this never happens to you. I want to help you make your first home more affordable, because I missed out on that opportunity. So I became known as the first-time homebuyer expert in the DC area. And anybody who thought about buying a first home, they came to me. Okay. So what is it that you want to be known for? It doesn't have to be first-time home. And as I age and as my clients age, I became known as somebody who helped people buy and sell at the same time. I was the expert at that. Okay. That's because that's what I talked to them about. All right. And then answering that question, why should somebody choose you? I think I've explained examples of that. All right. And I've said this before, you cannot stand out if you're trying to blend in. And if you don't stand out, you're not going to be chosen. Okay. And it's not about being better than another agent. It's not about putting other people down or any of that. It's about being different and thinking about what is it that makes you different, right? The only thing that made me different when I first figured all this out was I bought a house and everyone I knew didn't. That's it. And I was no better than any other agent. I was worse than every other agent because I had never sold a house. right? It's not about being better. It's about being different.
And Jennifer, you did such a good job about that. I mean, I don't know if people caught it, but earlier in the webinar, you said you are in Seattle, but you just said that you had made a name for yourself and you were an agent in DC. And in our conversations, you've mentioned to me that you still get repeat and referral business from the folks back there in DC. So, I mean, clearly you made a name for yourself there.
Yeah. So I make, I have a lot of clients. I won't name numbers, but I make a living. I make a full living that some agents make on simply referrals because I'm still known in that circle and in that area. People still come to me even though I don't live there. And I talk to them and I get them set up and then I pass them on to an agent that I know can help them. And I get referral fees for it. So the stuff that I'm teaching you how to do, literally like you become known for it and you like can't take it away, right? I haven't even marketed there in years and it's still coming. What's next? Okay. So how do you do all this? Because you're like, I'm doing so much already. How do I fit this in? I automate everything in my business, everything. Lead generation, talking to people I know, right? So the guy who said email's free, it's not free to me because I automate my emails. I set it up for a month and they go out to everybody on my list, right? The new leads that come in, if somebody opts into something, they get something. Right? It's all automated. When I have active clients, it's all automated. I use Realvolve. That's one reason why I'm here. It's because they asked me to be here. But I'm only here because 10 years ago, I built my own CRM. I had tried all of them. And I spent a year and I built my own CRM. And it was clunky and it was like breaking. And I searched high and low for a CRM that would replace it and give me the flexibility to create my own workflows, right? My own authenticity, like my own way of doing things. And I found Realvolve. And so I created my workflows. So I have workflows for what happens at anything that happens in my business, from going under contract to even after the transaction. And I think so often in real estate, we're so told to, just jump to a team or jump to hiring people. And I would just recommend that automating before you delegate will create such a strong foundation in your business. And that way, when you do hire a team or you do hire support, admin, marketing support, they have a system that you've built and they can go into, for example, in this case, your Realvolve account and do the tasks that Realvolve in your workflow is telling you what to do, right? So don't jump to hiring a bunch of people because then you turn into a manager. And for me, I loved being with my clients. I did anything I can to be in front of my clients. And so I automated first, freed up so much time, got my business to, over 5 transactions a month. And then I hired an admin. Then I hired a marketing person. Then I hired a showing assistant, then a buyer's assistant, then I listing. Okay. Because what that does is then create this big framework that your buyer's agent can use, right? Without a CRM, there is no way that you can do the level of business that is going to most likely get you the income that you came here for. So,
and Jennifer, I think what so many people kind of miss about the automation is really what, in order to automate, you have to have something to automate, right? And that something is a process. Right. And that's why people who have automated have so much success, not because they scheduled some email. I mean, you can do that with all kinds of different tools. Right. But if you are kind of forced to sit down and say, all right, what is my process here? When like you said, the different stages, when I am doing lead generation, when I'm converting those leads, when I'm helping people from contract to close, and when I'm communicating with people afterwards, right? There's a process for all of those stages. And that's what we pride ourselves on at Realvolve is that the automation, the branching automation that we have, it's so much more than just scheduling an email, than just doing one of those things, right? And I think that's what a lot of people kind of miss is that it really forces you to decide, this is how I want my client experience to go. This is the kind of experience that I want to deliver. Now, how do I actually design that and then go ahead and, like you said, automate it, right?
But I'll add something that I think Realvolve has that most CRMs, at least I've looked at and tried don't. And that is adding a level of flexibility. So like, I don't think you should use any CRM necessarily out of the box, right? Like you have to decide what is your process, everything we talked about, what makes you different, what is your experience going to be. And so that's why I loved Realvolve so much, because they had this structure that I was able to like start with, but then I was like, okay, I don't do my stuff that way. I want to do it this way. I want to change this email. And so it allowed that flexibility for you to add you into it and what you want for your business. And so those two things together, for me, is what set Realvolve apart.
Yeah. Jennifer, anything more on the branching automation or anything like that?
I mean, I could do a whole class on that. So like, I feel like I should stop there, just that you should have it for each phase of your business. And by the way, every real estate business, whether you know it or not, has 5 phases, 5 pillars, and you need to automate each one, which is how you get leads coming in, what happens when they do, getting them to the initial consultation, whether it's buyer or seller. And then what I call the during phase, which is like what they hired you to do, either sell the house or buy the house, all the things that happen there, all that needs to be automated. And when I say the word automate, it doesn't necessarily mean things are going to them, but maybe it's prompting me to do something so I can take the stuff out of my head, right? So automation just means like, it's telling people who needs to do what, not necessarily automating every interaction you have with your client. Okay. So what that did was free up all the things, the tiny, like a million things that was in my head that I have to do. And it put it all in a piece of paper that pinged me. I always call like Realvolve my boss. It's like my boss. It tells me what I need to do when, on what day, and when the due date is. Right. Which is so much better than having to figure it out. So during and then under contract, and then your after phase, you want to create a relationship with people, because I heard that most of you guys want, business from people you know or your past clients. And the way to do that is to have a value added, everything we talked about, a value added way to keep in touch with your clients without asking for business. And the only way to do that is automating.
Well, and as we kind of close this up, I know we are at the hour here, and we were attempting to keep some time here at the end. Jennifer, I'll let you kind of cruise through some of the chat there, see if you see any questions that you'd love to answer. And while you do that, I mean, for those who have never heard of Realvolve or have seen it kind of here and there, I mean, we are a very powerful CRM that really sets ourselves apart with our workflows. I mean, workflows, they are a branching automation. And what that basically means is just what Jennifer said, right? You can schedule emails just like any other tool out there, but from there, it gets so much deeper into your practice, where it can actually trigger different tasks, trigger different notifications. When you have a listing, if you have different email templates that you need to be triggered, and it needs to have the address in there and just different things kind of plugging in to make it more customized, but you don't want to have to write that email every single time. It can do that. You can have workflows that are triggered based on something getting done. So, you know, in so many of these programs, you can only schedule the emails or maybe even a simple task, but it's basically saying, hey, on this date, or, you know, this many days after this date, right? Realvolve gives you a lot of different options to trigger different actions. And that's where the automation gets so much more interesting. And if you've seen any of our other webinars with Michael Thorne, he really gets into how incredible it is to have that branching technology, because it can make you more human and bring you closer to the client without you having to do so much more work, right? And so if you'd like to learn more about that, you can certainly head over to realvolve.com. And if you want to even if you're ready to set a demo, go to realvolve.com/demo. We'd love to chat with you more. And as our CRO always says, no is a perfectly fine answer, but why not just find out more? Well, find out why Jennifer's so excited about this, why Michael Thorne is so excited about this. I mean, I had this quote on here, I forgot to mention it. I mean, Sarah Courtney, she is a closing coordinator that I spoke with just a couple weeks ago. And she is the only transaction coordinator on a team that handled 265 transactions. If she can do all of those with Realvolve, what could you be doing? Right? I mean, there's just so much power in this thing. And the quotes like these just go on and on, from teams, from transaction coordinators, from solo agents. And we have different plans that kind of fit everybody. We also do have a sister product in FirePoint. And that's great for teams who are looking to do even more lead generation and conversion there and need more accountability. So a great way to find out which one is right is just to start up a chat with us and find out more. So again, go to realvolve.com/demo if you want to set up that demo there. If you'd like to find out more about Firepoint, firepoint.net/demo. And Jennifer, why should people reach out to you? How can they get in touch with you? What would you like to hear from people?
Yeah, the best way to find me is agentgradschool.com, or you can go to wherever you listen to podcasts and go to Confessions of a Top Producing Real Estate Agent. I only had an hour today, and obviously I can't go into everything, every single detail, but the podcast and that website is a great place for it. The other thing I'll add is the whole at the very least, compare Realvolve to your other CRMs. I'm seeing a lot of questions about work-life balance, and truly, I'm not just saying this because we're here on a Realvolve, whether it's Realvolve or another CRM, have a CRM. I personally believe Realvolve to be the best, but have a CRM, because that is the only way to begin to have a work-life balance. And not only that, but you will be able to do double the transactions in the same amount of time. So you're making more money, you're doing it more effectively. And I feel like that's why we all got into this business, right? We wanted more time, and we wanted more money freedom, and we wanted the ability to create that. And so these are just some ideas on how to do that today.
Yeah,
so I hope that helps.
And actually, you got a couple shout outs on your podcast. The podcast is the bomb. It's awesome. So
thank you.
Congrats there. Everybody, thanks so much for carving out some time with us today. We enjoyed it. We are going to work on getting the replay out as soon as possible. Hopefully today, tomorrow at the very latest, and we will include the links that Jennifer provided us. So look for those. And if you have more questions or anything, feel free to email in to Jennifer, to myself, and we'll be sure to help you out there. But for now, Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing all the great ideas and all that. And let's definitely do something again here real soon.
Okay. Bye, guys. Thanks.
Have a good one, everybody.